Hi, and welcome to another episode of Growing Up. And today we are talking about COVID vaccine during pregnancy. But first, again, Bespoke Janae. Check them out on Instagram as well as on Facebook. Today we are joined by Professor Salome Maswime, extraordinary in her field in the OB and gynecology. She is committed to maternal and fetal medicine. When she's not practicing, she is researching, or she's lecturing, or she gives talks. And today, we have the privilege of having her here, spending some time with us. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for inviting me. So yes, I am Salome Maswime. I'm an associate professor at the University of Cape Town. I'm also the head of global surgery at the University of Cape Town. So a lot of the work I do has a lot to do with equity and trying to strengthen health systems to provide better care to more pregnant women.
Now, I asked you to join us today because you are not just outstanding in the field of OB and gynecology, but you have also been very vocal on your stance on COVID vaccine. You believe that COVID-19 is creating a generation of orphans in South Africa. You called for women of reproductive age to be prioritized for COVID vaccination, alongside police, teachers, and healthcare workers. You also said that you are seeing more and more pregnant women in their third trimester with COVID-19 being admitted to ICU, with many dying.
So I'll give you a bit more background and context as well. So I'm one of the co-principal investigators on the South African COVID in pregnancy study, where we have 36 hospitals enrolled. And so we've been looking at the COVID data initially in the first wave, and we're now looking at COVID data in the second and third wave, just in pregnant women. And so what we did find was that the women who died, there were 6% of the women enrolled in our study, with close to 700 women died, and 15% of the women were admitted to ICU. So that tells you that, pregnant women are at high risk for severe complications of COVID disease, and also, unfortunately, for death. But this goes along with data that has been found in other low and middle income countries, where women who've been diagnosed or hospitalized with COVID have also had adverse outcomes. And so to me, pregnancy is a risk factor, just like diabetes, just like being over the age of 60. Pregnancy changes your body. It changes how your whole body reacts to different things. And so what we always look at is when it comes to various or to diseases, there is an effect of the disease on the human body, and there's the effect on pregnancy itself on that disease. So some diseases might get worse, and some might remain okay, and some might even be better for certain periods of time. But COVID-19 disease itself has got an impact or an effect on pregnancy. And so whilst we have seen that pregnant women are not necessarily more susceptible to getting COVID-19 disease, but they are at higher risk of getting severe disease once they are infected. Initially, when the COVID studies were done, they were not done on pregnant women. So these are your early studies where they're first, testing for whether this will work in human beings, whether the efficacy, etc. So the initial studies were not done on pregnant women, but were done it was tested on pregnant rats and pregnant animals, the mammals, how they normally do it, but they could not test it on pregnant women. But since the rollout of the vaccine, many pregnant women across different parts of the world have had the vaccine used on them. And so for the safety of pregnant women, it was recommended that within the first 14 weeks not to vaccinate them. But since then, there have been a number of studies that have shown that it can be used throughout pregnancy. And so our recommendation which is backed up by what is also being used by recommendations in other countries like the US and the UK, is currently in South Africa, that pregnant women can be vaccinated throughout a pregnancy. And furthermore, that women of reproductive age who are intending to fall pregnant should get vaccinated even before they fall pregnant.
So you have spoken very nicely about the benefits of the mother and helping the mother assist her in her pregnancy journey. The baby in itself, I read that when you take the COVID vaccine, you pass it on to your fetus if you're still pregnant, and when you breastfeed, you pass it on to your baby. Is that true? And then for how long is your baby then also vaccinated and a bit protected against the virus?
It is believed that there's an added immunity that they believe that vaccinating the mother will have for the baby. I don't know how long this lasts, but at least what we assume is that at least within the first few days, there's an added protection for that the baby will have. So that is all I can really say about it, that the benefits are not just to mom, but also to the baby as well. We are also going forward, looking at, what were the outcomes of the women who were vaccinated compared to those who were not vaccinated, and and the babies that were born, if there were any differences in the groups that were vaccinated and not vaccinated. So there will be many answers coming.
What hint or tip would you give to women who are still not entirely sure about whether to get vaccinated or not?
Yeah, I think the research and the data speaks for itself, especially in countries like South Africa, that there is a high likelihood of having COVID-19 when you're not, when you are pregnant, and there is a high likelihood of having complications. You might not be the one with the complications, but some of the women who have it, a third of them will have severe complications. And none of us want you or any of the pregnant women that we see to be one of the women that have those complications. And so the only thing that we can recommend is being vaccinated to try and prevent more women from having adverse outcomes. Of course, it is a very difficult time. And I think more than the anxiety about the vaccination, there's just pregnancy as a whole has changed. You will know more about, how it is being pregnant during a pandemic versus being pregnant when there isn't a pandemic and there isn't access to everything and that you need and when you want it. And so we are making these recommendations because we believe that it's safer for pregnant women to be vaccinated. But also to look after yourself, your mental health, to protect yourself and your baby from other ways of being infected.
Thank you so much, Prof. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, there you have it. Get vaccinated to protect yourself and your baby. Join us again for another episode of Growing Up.